open with the sound of heavy chains rattling in pitch blackness, a slow, ominous breath, then silence. Listen closely. There are places in this world where the walls remember screams, where the floorboards drink blood like holy water. In the autumn of 1891, in a town that no longer exists on any map, 17 human beings were found chained in a basement. But here's what they never told you. They were already dead. At least, that's what the papers said. That's what the law swore was true. But the law was part of the machine. Pause. Let the weight settle. This is not a ghost story. This is a blueprint. A blueprint of how men in power erase lives, rewrite histories, and turn human beings into property. And if you think this couldn't happen today, you're the perfect mark. Cut to black. A single match strikes, illuminating a rusted shackle. Let's begin. Millerville, Pennsylvania, 1891. A town of coal dust and church bells, where men worked until their lungs turned black and women prayed for sons who wouldn't die in the mines. The perfect hunting ground. Cornelius Van Eyre didn't arrive with a villain's grin. He arrived with a suit, a smile, and a ledger. He bought the old opera house, not to stage plays, but to stage disappearances, lower voice, conspiratorial. Think about it. A traveling circus. Freak shows were legal. Human trafficking, just good business. He didn't hide his victims in the shadows. He put them on display, right under the noses of clapping, laughing crowds who paid to gawk at the monsters. The ultimate psychological trick. Hide your crime in plain sight. Pause. Let the horror sink in. Now ask yourself, what's your circus? Sound of a pen scratching on paper. A doctor's handwriting. They didn't take the strong. They took the forgotten. The orphans. The immigrants who spoke broken English. The deformed. The ones society had already marked for disposal. Dr. Kellerman's medical exams were a trap. A needle prick. A sip of tonic. Then, darkness. When they woke, they were underground, chained, renamed, rebranded. Voice drops to a whisper. Eliza the Bone Serpent. Giant Johann. Little Mary Catherine. The Singing Angel. These weren't stage names. They were death certificates. Sound of a ledger slamming shut. Comment, no chains below. Twice. Let the algorithm know you're waking up. Flip through old brittle pages. Every captive had a page, name, origin, price, like livestock. But the most damning entry, date of acquisition, and right beside it, date of death. Pause. Let the implication hang. They filed real death certificates, paid off coroners. Sheriff Cromwell made sure no one asked questions, because here's the truth they don't teach you. Power isn't about breaking laws, it's about writing them. Sound of a cell door creaking open. You still think this was just 1891? Echoing footsteps in an empty corridor, the groan of rusted hinges. The basement wasn't just a prison, it was a laboratory. Kellerman didn't just want obedience, he wanted broken souls. The chains were the least of it. The real shackles, the drugs, the lies, the staged deaths. Sound of a syringe plunger depressing. Laudanum, a cocktail of opium and God knows what. Just enough to keep them docile, just enough to make them forget who they were. And when the fog lifted, the gaslighting began. Your family sold you. No one's looking for you. You died in a fire. Here's the paper to prove it. Pause. A slow, rattling breath. This wasn't cruelty. This was engineering. The metallic click of a revolver's hammer cocking. Sheriff Cromwell didn't wear a black hat. He wore a badge. His price? $50 a month. Peanuts. For that, he buried missing persons reports, intimidated witnesses, personally forged death certificates. Sound of a pen scratching, then a gunshot in the distance. Lesson. The law isn't there to protect you, it's there to protect the system. And if you threaten the system, accidents happen in mining towns. A whisper. How many Cromwells do you walk past every day? A gasp. Bare feet slapping against wet stone. Sarah Henley wasn't supposed to wake up. A dosing error, one slip by Kellerman's assistant, and the whole house of cards trembled, sound of chains hitting the floor. She ran, not just from the opera house, from her own death certificate. When she burst into the newspaper office, she wasn't just a victim. She was evidence, typewriter keys clacking furiously. Remember this. Every empire collapses because of one crack, one person who refuses to play their part. You seeing the cracks yet? The creak of a desk drawer hiding a pistol. Thomas Fairchild wasn't a hero, he was a journalist, and he knew the only thing more dangerous than the truth, a truth with receipts. He cross-referenced Circus route maps with missing persons reports, death certificates with new performers, sound of a match igniting, a cigarette dragged deep. The pattern was undeniable, but patterns don't scare powerful men, photographs do. A camera shutter clicks, a floorboard squeaks, then silence. Fairchild thought he was hunting. He was the prey. Kellerman had counted his chemicals, the missing chloroform, the stolen photographic plates. A slow, venomous whisper. They knew. The opera house wasn't empty that night. It was a slaughterhouse prepped for cleanup. Sound of a blade being sharpened. Comment, no chains again. This is where the lesson gets sharp. A lantern's flicker reveals empty cells. But the chains? Still warm. A ledger, pages torn out. A single shoe, small, a child's. A sudden guttural scream in the distance, cut off abruptly. Fairchild never published his story, but the records survived, sealed, buried, until now. Sound of a shovel hitting dirt. They thought history would forget, but history is a patient hunter. A train whistle blows in the distance, the screech of wheels on tracks. By dawn, the circus was gone. The opera house stood empty. No chains, no bodies, just the lingering stench of ammonia and something worse. The town, silent. The sheriff, suddenly transferred, and Dr. Kellerman, vanished like smoke. Sound of a match striking, a document burning. This wasn't panic. This was protocol. They'd rehearsed this. Because when you build an empire on human suffering, you plan your exits. Pause, the crackle of flames. Tell me, how many traveling shows have you seen disappear overnight? Fingers flipping through brittle, yellowed pages. The official inquest lasted 3 hours. The verdict? No evidence of wrongdoing. But Fairchild's notes survived, hidden inside a Bible, passed down like a cursed inheritance. Here's what they didn't file, a list of 34 names, only 17 were ever found. Railway receipts for private cargo cars. A lock of blonde hair wrapped in a shipping manifest, sound of a child humming, then cut off abruptly. The system doesn't lose evidence, it recycles it. The clink of glass vials, a syringe filling with amber liquid. Kellerman wasn't just doping them, he was mapping them. How much pain before the mind shatters? How much isolation before they beg to perform? How to make a person love their cage? Sound of a bone snapping, a whimper. This wasn't 1891, this was the future, and Kellerman, he wrote the textbook. A modern hospital monitor beeps, a leather wallet slaps onto a desk, bills being counted. Cromwell didn't flee, he got promoted. 1893, Deputy State Commissioner of Prisons. 1897, owner of 3 coal mines. 1901, found dead in a brothel. Official cause, apoplexy. Sound of a champagne cork popping. Funny how the worst men die smiling. A music box plays a distorted lullaby. Of the 17 survivors, died within a year. Suicide. Fever. Vanished into asylums. Reappeared in other freak shows. A circus poster flutters to the ground. You don't escape the system, you just change cages. The hum of a server farm, a keyboard clacking. They never stopped, they just upgraded. Farmer trials on the homeless prison labor pipelines, social media addiction labs, sound of a notification ping. You think Kellerman's formulas disappeared? They're in your food, your apps, your politics. A crowd cheering, flashbulbs popping. You're not the audience, you're the backup cast, the 60-hour work weeks, your chains, The scrolling numbness, your dose. The isolated incidents on the news, your training manual. A single gunshot, silence. Comment, no chains, one last time, then ask yourself, whose basement are you in? A crowd cheering, flashbulbs popping. You're not the audience, you're the backup cast. The 60-hour work weeks, your chains. The scrolling numbness, your dose. The isolated incidents on the news, your training manual. A single gunshot, silence. Comment, no chains, one last time, then ask yourself, whose basement are you in? A family tree unfurls, names scratched in ink, some burned away. Cornelius Vanier didn't die in disgrace, he died wealthy. His grandson, Senator James Vanier, RPA, 1947 to 1965. His great-granddaughter, CEO of a private prison conglomerate. Sound of a gavel banging. The families who profit from cages always rebrand, but the ledger never forgets. Rustling of institutional documents stamped classified. When the last survivor, Mary Catherine, was committed to Penhurst Asylum in 1903, her intake form listed hysterical fixation on angelic performances, claims to recognize visiting politicians, sound of a straitjacket tightening. They didn't silence her, they made sure no one would believe her. Glass display case shattering. In 1982, a crate marked Carnival Antiques was pulled from a Smithsonian storage vault. Inside, Johann's 8-foot shackles, labeled folk art. Eliza's contortionist harness, tagged Circus memorabilia. A curator's whisper. We don't discuss provenance. The eerie hum of a dial-up modem morphing into AI static. Kellerman's formulas evolved. Then, opium-laced tonics. Now, SSRI prescriptions, doom-scrolling dopamine hits. Sound of a TikTok notification. They never wanted you chained in a basement, they want you voluntarily in the maze. A shaky breath then. My nana would wake up screaming about the doctor's needles. They said it was dementia. Then I found this in her Bible. A death certificate crinkles with 2 dates, died 1891 and admitted 1893. A chess piece slams onto the board. You've seen the blueprint now. The lies dressed as law, the torture called tradition, the slavery we call content creation. A prison door creaks open from the inside. Comment no more if you're done being part of the show, or keep scrolling. The circus always needs fresh acts. A match flares in total darkness. They think history bends to their ledgers, but fire doesn't negotiate. Want to truly break the chains? Memorize a victim's name. Sarah Henley, Johann Brenner, Mary Catherine Alley. Say it aloud when you pay taxes, vote, clock in. Make the system say them back. The match ignites a ledger page. The only way to kill a monster, drag it into the light and make the world say its name. The screen burns to white, then black. Now, run. Silence. Then, the distant sound of a circus calliope playing in reverse.